Oh boy. Stop the count.
Okay, I'll get on the. Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to AMS AfterDark Plus. Can everybody see me? I'm gonna take your resounding silence as a yes.
Woo!
I unlike all of you have not been teaching online, so I'm very not used to this kind of situation. But we're gonna do it live, and that's what we're gonna do. I thank everybody for coming. Thanks to all our presenters. Just want to give a really quick off the top shout out to the people that really made this happen. And that is, I'll use Twitter handles at Bart Acknowledge, who's running tech and keeping us going, and at Music Theory Augmented, at Musicology Duck, keeping us going, getting everybody, everybody jazzed about the event, and we're so excited to kick this off. I'm gonna pull up right now the program so we can get going. It's been a tough year, I think, as we can all attest to, and don't worry, we're gonna keep it funny. We're pleased tonight to have Dan Blim from the Royal Tampa Academy of Dramatic Tricks, coming all the way live from Tampa to be our respondent. I think we all know that's one of the easier schools to get a job at. So, we're really happy for him. At the same time, it's, we also have Musicology Duck, the one and only Musicology Duck, as a respondent from Malliard School. I think Malliard is French for mallard. Anyway. Without further ado, I want to get this kicked off. I can't hear your applause. I assume that everybody is standing in their kitchens and just applauding, so loudly for me. And I thank you. I thank you. I could do this all day, but nobody, I know you all want me to, but we're going to get started with our very first presenter in our theme of In Search of a Worse Timeline. Our first paper session is entitled Squeals and Bangs. And our first presenter is the one and only Dominique Pelletier, a.k.a. Rainbow Trash, at Doe Pelletier from the Moog Community College, of course, one of the most prestigious institutions that Moog runs. Approach Me, I Squeal, the theremin, the ultimate instrument of cringe. And Ryan, let's take it away to Dominique.
Approach me, I squeal. The theremin, ultimate instrument of cringe. Content warning. In this presentation, you will find drinking, sex toys, Rule 34, and mazurg. The theremin, which celebrates its centennial this year, has historically generated a great amount of cringe, both musically and discursively, in such a small amount of time. Like most musical instruments, the theremin is an embodied and situated cognitive device whose primary function was meant to spy on people, but it ended up being useless because it generated so much interference. The theremin is bed, bath, and beyond. I know what you're thinking. This screams musical instrument, right? It can be seen as quite magical, since it transforms the electromagnetic pitch field around it, the air, into sound. The theremin is the perfect candidate for a platform studies analysis, as otherwise it would fail to be included in works of musical scholarship. In other words, nobody cares. Except maybe the extended theremin family, who have taken great care in keeping their lineage close to the instrument and maintaining a certain influence on the discourse surrounding it. Though the theremin family's role in safeguarding the instrument's baggage remains to be documented, I believe it is now safe to point out that Russia definitely won the race to space with this one. But let's be clear, folks. Blood does not make you good at music. Also, like most musical instruments, it has been sexualized. It's not a woman's body, it's a cello. It definitely has some features that lead the way for bad analogies. Its erect antenna, the way it squeals with your body movement, the way it tells you not to touch it as you approach, yet you feel compelled to. It makes you a creep, okay? As any good platform study, we must take into account Rule 34, and good news for numerology fans out there. There are 34 results when you research the theremin where it most matters. Men of theremin music, I too can point out the hypersexualized nature of thy instrument. Behold my chair-funded post-pornographic research creation analysis. Used in sci-fi and horror movie soundtracks, the theremin brings out the creeper in all of us. Rob Schwimmer once said on television that playing the theremin is like having sex with ghosts. Exchanges online, players definitely enable the discourse around the instrument to be centered around the way it is so hard. So hard. The real truth of the matter is that making music with a third-grade science experiment is really not that exciting. The fact that we're just begging Moog to make us pay thousands of dollars for a more capitalist version of a defective radio with an oscillator inside, meant to be played with the air rather than a keyboard, does not make us sound professional. It makes us sound out of touch with reality. So out of touch, it makes men long for things they cannot have. Indeed, as an early synth, it is a precursor of the modular midlife crisis, a movement also known as mortgage to music. With its sensitive circuitry and hard-to-predict pitch, the theremin comes with its definite load of player fragility as it brings out the musical clumsy in everyone. You can play the swan all you want, you're still an ugly duckling. Quack, quackity, quack. Still, the theremin remains a precious meta-discursive analysis tool when dealing with inceptively referential questions such as, are the good vibrations in good vibrations good? One fine day, on the internet, theremin aficionado Christoph Becker said, "My theremin is like an old lady with a mood disorder. Won't let me touch her." Since the theremin conveys rape culture in such vivid ways, I'd say we cancel this shit show right this minute. I mean, 100 more years? At the dawn of a historical period, when the air around us becomes contaminated, vile, and potentially deadly, hearing the sound of said air just adds insult to injury. Why insist on approaching an instrument clearly telling us to stay away? After all, the only two people who can really actually play this thing are this guy and this guy.
Woo! Woo!
Incredible.
I just want to say that it's a thrill to be here and to be responding to a paper with such control. Certainly, someone who has a real control over the vibrator aspect of the instrument. I too am a fan of the theremin. Or at least have attempted it. Though instead of a bathtub, I often like to play it on the toilet, which I feel makes it an heir to the throne. So I'll kick things off by giving you a question, Dominique. I'm curious if you've had any experience with a similar instrument in the family, the theraflute, and what your opinions of the theraflute are.
I have no idea what that is. I'm sorry. I have no idea what the theraflute is. I'm so sorry. I was hoping for a question on the Russian School of Russian Schools and how the theremin kind of integrated with that, but I had no expectations that the Thera flute would come up.
That's right. If there's anyone in the stream who would like to ask a question.
I have a question, but I need video to ask my question. Okay. Oh, hello. Okay. So this is actually more of a comment than a question. So I didn't really pay attention to any of your presentation. I had other things on my mind. But I know that you were talking about the theremin, and this is really just an excuse for me to be like, I have a theremin. I'm too lazy to get it out of the box, but I just wanted to plug my project. So yeah, that was about it. I guess I'll see you later. Good paper, I'm assuming.
The fact that you never touched it is an excellent start, I must say. It's the way to a promising career. Keep it up. Yeah. Oh, that's an excellent question. Because I mean the other, right, has to be maintained at a certain distance for us to have an objectifying of it. So I guess with regards to that, it would be occulting to not objectify the object in a circumstance where the object has to be objectified, if that makes any sense, but it might not. I can already tell that from a gender perspective, it's a period instrument. Reminder that blood does not make you good at music, okay? Thank you.
Bravo, bravo.
Oh, here we go. Is this good? Oh, it's muted. Uh-huh. Hello? Hey. Well, awesome job once again. Give it up for Dominique. Rainbow Trash, Moog Community College. I think we can really safely say Moog money, Moog problems. And shout outs to Cuts My Leg Off for the Theraflu reference. I think that's very topical and it's very real. And, we should give that the space to germinate in everybody's mind. We're going to have a break-in session at the end of this. We're all going to break into Ryan's house and steal his gear, and we can maybe talk about it more. The next presentation that we got coming up for you in our Squeals and Bangs is coming from Cabela Chirwa at Ufulu Stanley from the Taylor Swift Folklore Studies Center, which is, of course, at the Taylor Swift University of Berlin, weirdly. I mean, you know, but what don't they have there? You know, you'd think it'd be somewhere in Texas or wherever. I don't know. But, you know, Berlin, hey. With the Is It a Banger, developing a theoretical model for creating a perfect playlist. And people, I want you to listen up here because this is something we can all take home. Let's give it away to Cabela, everybody.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me okay? Let's do it. All right. Can you see a slideshow? I did, yes. Let me. Oh, interesting. Oh, okay, let me not change it. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, you can see it and you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Well, I guess Guten Tag or something in Germany or something in German from Germany. From my esteemed position, I'm very happy to be with you today and share with you something that's very near and dear to my heart and very important to just the entire field of music. So I'll go ahead and get started. Give a man a fish and you can feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you can feed him for a lifetime. But teach a man an overly complicated system for catching Pacific bluefish tuna every time he throws a line, and you introduce him to a life of pleasure and luxury that will be the envy of all. I'm no fisherman and can therefore not offer you a solution to world hunger. However, as a musician, I perhaps can present a similar, overly complicated methodology to shape all of your future sonic experiences to be ones of pleasure and luxury. One of the leading concerns of music lovers globally is the seemingly impossible task of finding a large group of people that can agree on albums, songs, or music pieces that undeniably represent the peak of human music making. This question causes arguments, deep family feuds, murder. This question is solely responsible for the disputes and deep divisions that plagues this country. How might we begin to build a repertoire that finds commonalities in the listener's taste in music? What factors should we consider when determining what makes a song an absolute banger? In this paper, I develop a theoretical method that will be used to analyze the specific elements of a song that are responsible for audience enjoyment. This analysis will achieve the goal of determining whether or not the song in question slaps or if it is fire. First, to determine if a song is a banger, I use Parks and Recreation character Tom Haverford's rigorous test that characterizes music as either a banger or not a banger. Although this calculation will solve the most crucial question in determining the quality of song, It is my belief that participation produces part of the positive experience of most songs, and Haverford's matrix does not adequately deal with this factor. Therefore, what I call Tom Haverford's matrix of banger certification is only the first step in my methodology for calculating song quality. Real-life music theorist Robert Komeniki created the karaoke quality formula as a means of quantifying the maximum enjoyment that a song can produce for the performer and the audience. By first acknowledging the issue of whether or not a song is a banger, and then examining how the song is experienced by everyone within a specific location, I hope to devise an effective method of isolating the best songs that have ever been created. After explaining how the MBC and KQF work, I then use Miley Cyrus's 2013 album Bangers as a case study. By choosing this title for her album, Cyrus boldly implies that every song on the album should be a banger. I intend to find out. In season 6, episode 18 of the television show Parks and Recreation, the Parks and Recreation department of the now merged towns of Pawnee and Eagleton are helping Pawnee Central High School organize their senior prom. Tom Haverford is chosen as a co-DJ along with Ben Wyatt. In a conversation between the co-DJs about their plan for choosing a playlist, Haverford informs the camera crew during a documentary-style interview that every song that he listens to is a banger because he puts it through a rigorous test. In this test, a song must be analyzed for 4 specific elements before it can be classified as a banger. How many beats per minute? Does it have any drops? Are the drops dope? And does it have any acoustic instruments? A few key points must be addressed before a song can be tested in Haverford's matrix. First, the only elements that have a clear relationship are between drops and dopeness. This is to say that dopeness is directly related to the drop of the song and not necessarily related to the song as a whole. In theory, one could be listening to a song that is whack, but the drop is still dope. In this scenario, does this then automatically qualify the song as a banger? Not necessarily. A song may have a dope drop or a whack drop, and its ability to be a banger is still in question. For example, We Can't Stop from Miley Cyrus's Bangers does not have a noticeable drop. The beats per minute is relatively average, coming in at 80 BPM, but I would still classify this song as a banger, primarily due to other factors regarding the idea of participation, which is more closely addressed in the KQF. I would argue We Can't Stop is absolutely a banger. Second, the one element of Haverford's matrix that does automatically affect the song's ability to be a banger is the inclusion of acoustic instruments. In Haverford's explanation of this matrix, after the question of acoustic instruments is brought up, he notes that he once accidentally downloaded a Lumineers song, and the only acceptable action after this blunder was to throw away his computer entirely. All of the ramifications of the presence of acoustic instruments is not clear, but it seems that they result in automatic disqualification via Haverford's matrix. In my own analysis, the one complication when identifying acoustic instruments is with the piano. In the song credits for Bangers on Wikipedia and Discogs, and the pianists are not often listed from song to song. So I've excluded piano as a disqualifier because it is easily programmable and to my ears difficult to discern when it is synthesized. Also, in most cases, the piano is heavily affected and automated, further blurring any similarity it may have to an acoustic piano. On August 9th, 2020, as we entered our 5th month of a global pandemic and most of us began to forget what our loved ones looked like, music theorist Robert Komeniki tweeted, "I miss going out, so I made a formula for subjectively evaluating karaoke songs. The variables are S, singability, B, how much of a banger a song is, and P, problematicness." End quote. Admittedly, my use of Komeniki's formula takes a less humble approach, a less humble tone, as I assert that my calculations and decisions are more difficult to contend with. However, it may serve me well to follow Komeniki's lead and state that the way in which I am thinking about these variables may slightly differ compared to other scholars whose specialty is theorizing bangers. The banger variable has already been thoroughly discussed in the explanation of Haverford's MBC. I argue that this variable allows for the most subjectivity in Komeniki's formula. Therefore, using the matrix of banger certification as a prerequisite to calculating the quality of a song as a site of participation allows for more satisfactory and clear understanding of what makes a song slap. Similar to Komuniki, I'm considering a song's vocal range when assessing its singability. However, I think it is also important to note the rhythm and speed of the lyrics when determining a singable song. In the case of bangers, although Cyrus at times employs a rap-like delivery and recruits the help of rappers for features on her songs, the rhythm does not seem complicated and the delivery is at an average pace. Calculating problematicness of a song or artist raises some issues. In many cases, and in some of the examples that Komuniki uses, it is clear whether or not a song is racist, sexist, or generally uncomfortable or dangerous. For example, R. Kelly's transgressions are clear and in the rating system of 1 through 5, with 1 being non-problematic and 5 being completely problematic. Few would disagree that R. Kelly deserves, a 5 on the scale. However, an artist like Miley Cyrus can generate some slightly mixed results. Cyrus is positively viewed in many discussions of the celebrity as a feminist, LGBTQIA+ ally, BIPOC ally. Her fan base covers a diverse group of people. However, the release of Bangers was notable in Cyrus's career as a moment in which she was completely shedding any remains of her association with the wholesome Disney image and making a name for herself in popular music discourse. To achieve this goal, she used Black music and Black culture. Years later, in 2017, during an interview with Billboard, when she was once again recalibrating her music career, she received some backlash for her explanation as to why she was no longer using hip-hop influences in her music, stating that it was too materialistic and misogynistic. She was accused of essentializing Black culture and exploiting Black music for her own gain, only to abandon it when it no longer suited her. Within the past few years, Cyrus has apologized for this statement and acknowledged her need to grow in discussing these matters, some of these matters. Primarily because of a clear apology, I'm inclined to classify Cyrus as a non-problematic artist, while understanding that others may not be as forgiving of white musicians' exploitation of Black music. With all of these variables in place, Cyrus's album Bangers can now be put to the test. As stated earlier, this title implies that every song on the album should be a banger. I now must be the bearer of bad news and inform you that this was very much not the case. Because of the inclusion of acoustic instruments, songs like Adore You, Wrecking Ball, #Get It Right, and Maybe You're Right were automatically disqualified from being classified as bangers. Of the remaining songs, the tracks with a drop were automatically classified as bangers, leaving the rest of the songs with no drop and no acoustic instruments to be assessed subjectively. Of these, SMS (bangers) featuring Britney Spears, 4x4 featuring Nelly, and Love Money Party featuring Big Sean did not make the cut as bangers. Unlike Haverford's Matrix, however, these songs do have a slim chance to redeem themselves in the KQF calculation. A perfect quality score is 40, and the only song to be awarded the score is We Can't Stop. When determining the singability of these songs, I've rated anything that is sung within an octave as a 5, removing a point for each additional octave that Cyrus may venture into. Each song that was classified as a banger in the MBC is automatically given a 5 for the KQF, and the non-bangers are given a 0. The songs mentioned above that were assessed subjectively had the opportunity to receive a score between 0 and 5 for the banger variable. SMS was given a 1, 4x4 a 0, and Love Money Party a 2. Lastly, as I mentioned earlier, I classify Cyrus as a non-problematic artist, thus all of the songs receive a 1 to show that they are non-problematic. Ultimately, over half of the songs on Bangers received a score of 36 or higher. Although this may be a disappointing conclusion, as it could give some opportunity to question Miley Cyrus's taste and integrity, but as a Miley Cyrus fan myself, I choose to take a more optimistic 13 songs, or 16 in the deluxe version, and expect all of them to be flawless. Bruno Mars may have done so with 24K Magic, but I haven't done the math, and I expect I might be somewhat disappointed in that analysis as well. When we are presented with a banger, an absolutely incredible quality song, we should not take those moments for granted. We should live our best lives in those moments, and more importantly, we should know when those moments are happening. I hope the methodology that I've presented today can give everyone the tools to finally, definitively answer the question, is it a banger? Thank you.
Woo!
Thank you.
All right, that was awesome. Dan Blim, our respondent here. I'm going to put you live to video. What is your take on this incredible, in-depth, math-heavy analysis? Shout out to the theorists. This is a joint year.
It was quite good. I was actually chatting a little bit with Robert Kominicki as you were presenting, who gives his regards and thanks you for doing this incredible work. I truly think this is a milestone of music theory scholarship for us to have this here. I would like to know a little bit about your preparation. Were you enrolled in a banker management program?
Oh my God!
That is an excellent question. No, I am a self-taught banger specialist. Just trying to find all the literature and scholarship that I can and absorb as much information as possible to catch myself up to the other scholars in my field.
That's great. Am I allowed to share screen?
Yes, Dan, you can do that.
I have an image that...
You're going to have to give me a moment to, once you share it with the screen, I will get it. You have to give me a sec to work the tech out.
Why don't you ask the question?
All right, Matt has a question. Hold on 1 second. The Skype chat pops up on the monitor where I need to click to reveal Matt's face. So everybody has to wait for the Skype message to go away. Sorry about that. All right. Matt, you now have a face on stream. Ask away.
All right. Thank you for a truly enlightening paper. I'm sure I'm not the only one that's scribbling notes just furiously, and trying to absorb this information. I just wanted to ask, and I think other people in the chat would agree, so much focus on bangers. But what about MASH? The monster mash, right? When you do the mash, you do the monster mash. It's a graveyard smash, right. And I'm just wondering, is this poking holes in the Haverfordian theory? Your response?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. And to be quite honest, it gives me a lot to think about. It really challenges the theory. It really tests the really tests the effectiveness. So I got to crunch the numbers. I need to be honest. I got to crunch the numbers. I got to put it to the test. And yes, it's very valid questioning.
Well, we look forward to seeing the upcoming publication in Bangers Quarterly.
So as Dan shares his screen, Sarah has a response. That's Sarah PC, I think. I missed it in the chat. I'm almost 90% though. Yes. Has a response for you that we only know the Monster Mash from secondary literature. Matt, more primary research needs to be done in that area.
So I have here
that could be an avenue for some a joint paper. I'm not opposed to co-authoring.
All right, Dan, have you shared a screen? I don't see it yet. If so,
it's coming.
Okay, that is why your face is frozen on for us. I think.
What she said.
while we await its arrival,
Yeah.
why don't we have the other question being asked? Also, welcome to Drum Ultima, who's popped in on our fun scholarly evening. Welcome. Whoever had a question on the Skype call, I forget who it was now. Go ahead.
I have a question. So I was wondering if this is Music Theory Augmented. I was wondering if Coelho could give us his take on, you know, the distinct differences between a boomer and a banger.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think it's a question of era. So I would say bangers before my knowledge of generations is a little weak. Let's say bangers before what would we say, like maybe 1970 would be classified as boomers, whereas bangers after that period would be classified as strictly bangers.
I really like that answer. Thank you very much. This is very important work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Music Theory Augmented. A, you're not supposed to eat things bigger than your head. B, everybody wants to know what it is.
So, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I was filming my video up until like the last second today. And so I ordered Chipotle like at this point 5 hours ago, and I picked it up an hour ago. So this is a 5-hour-old Chipotle burrito. That was a long answer to a simple question.
So that is mad cold.
That's a boomer burrito, in other words.
Yes, it's from the era of the boomers, but it's spicy hot, but it is a little bit like cold temperature-wise.
All right, for some reason...
Now, be careful about boomers.
Dan, I'm not seeing a shared
We
screen
love
from
you.
you. Do you want to move on for now?
Yeah, go ahead and move on. It was just that picture from Arrested Development where Mrs. Featherbottom is asking who wants a banger in the mouth, and I wanted to know if a response.
Very nice. All right, we're going to move on, team. Everybody clap in the chat again. Man, things are going excellently this year, despite all of our online hiccups. This is going pretty well here. I'm going to mute Dan's video to the feed. We're going to pop Matt back in to introduce presenter 3. Matt, you're live now. You want to read us presenter 3 here?
Well, thank you very much, Igabela, for giving us a lot to think about. You know, great stuff happening in the chat, by the way, and we promise that we will not get to any of it. You know, I mean, it's like, how could we? You know, we're running off of you know, I pawned my wedding ring to just be able to get this going. So, no, I didn't actually do that, guys. It's totally fine. We are moving on to our next panel. Our next paper session, moving right along, no break. That's how we roll here. We don't do the water breaks. We don't do the coffee breaks at AMS AfterDark Plus. We go right on, no commercials, no advertisement. Brought to you by Squarespace, where you can make your own website online. You know, it's easy to use. You can go on and you can do stuff like, I think drag and drop. It's excellent. You should check it out. Squarespace, please sponsor us. Our next paper session, number 2, titled Archives Schmarchives. I think we all feel that way, don't we? We're going to go off with our first presenter, Maristella, at M. Fuesle from the MTI. I'm having trouble reading this. I'm in a Vomanes School of Music. I'm not sure where that is.
Yeah, you got it.
I got it? Okay. I'm not sure where that is, but it sounds important. And, you know, that's the important thing. It sounds like somewhere that I would apply for a job and they would tell me, Matt, you work on guitars and no one cares. With prefiguring the mixtape and boombox serenade in the era of sheet music's binder collections. Everybody, let's give it up for Maristella.
Right, quick tech note. I have this video. I don't think we have Maristella on the Skype call. Can somebody confirm that for me while I load this? We'll work on that behind the scenes. In the meantime, the voices of us are going to go away again, and we're going to start this presentation.
Welcome to this AMS AfterDark presentation, prefiguring the mixtape and boombox serenade in the era of sheet music binders collections. This presentation calls attention to a completely plausible story of bound sheet music and musical culture surrounding binders collections, which are self-selected compilations of favorite songs into large bound volumes. Like a mixtape, but often with 200-plus pages of printed music. Surviving collections of these volumes reside in numerous libraries around the U.S. Most literature presumes that the underlying practices of mixtape compilation and the after-hours boombox serenade as activities of human courtship originated in the 1980s. This assertion may be characterized, in the strictest of technical terms, as unmitigated baloney. The John Jacob Jingles Hammerschmidt collection at the Recursive University of Recursive University makes strides in mitigating the aforementioned baloney. The collection consists of 27 binders collections, a slide whistle, a merry-go-round horse, and a salt shaker monogrammed for one James Buffett, address unknown. The collection points to extensive practices in the mid-19th century, whereby the common practice of creating binders collections served a particular social purpose. Such collections were carried by suitors, who rode by horse-drawn carriage towing a piano, accompanist, and sometimes a trained singer or singing ensemble, on a trailer underneath the bedroom window to serenade a prospective love interest. The economic activity generated by this practice supported entire towns, including Hammerschmidt's own hometown of Fosseville, Missouri. Practice also posed considerable barriers to participation due to the prohibitive cost of pitching woo in this manner. To this end, benevolent societies such as the Richard Roll Society for Neither Giving Up Nor Letting Down stepped in to subsidize access to sheet music, bookbinding materials, horses, carriages, pianos, performers, and carriage drivers according to need. Unfortunately, questionable accounting practices, badly tuned pianos, a spate of double bookings, and a few unfortunate sharp turns en route hit the town of Fosseville in an inopportune time, and the financial panic of 1857 was followed in short order by the financial snit of 1858, in which analysts noted that the economy just could not even. Couples abandoned this ritual of love and marriage. The local paper, the Fosseville Contrafair, asked the local gentry, who responded that the turn of events was elementary. And thus, the economic ecosystem of the binders collection industrial complex proved all too fragile, and the industry of sheet music collections performed under people's windows by performers towed in on a horse-drawn trailer faded into obscurity. Nevertheless, the industry provided an important precedent cited roughly half a century later, in short-lived attempts at marketing the Edison mix cylinder for similar serenades in a slightly more compact presentation. This, too, ran into complications. First, if you've ever lifted an Edison cylinder player, they're tiring to hold over your head, and the horn attached to amplify the sound makes for an imbalanced and awkward distribution of weight. Many a cylinder and player was lost in this way, and many a back thrown out in this sort of stunt, leading to the chiropractic boom of 1912. Secondly, the recording fidelity was dreadful and the volume not great. Thus, prospective love interests would be less flattered at a serenade Jawdis Society Orchestra's Sousa slow jams beneath their second-floor window, and more perplexed by the muffled hiss of static. The last desperate gasp of this quixotic attempt at winning the heart of a love interest by trespassing on their property to play a selection of music revived the piano on a trailer, but in favor of the even shorter-lived mix piano roll. The cutting and splicing together of segments of paper piano rolls was obviously labor-intensive. Add to that the fact that the automobile had replaced the horse-drawn carriage, and the foot-pedal-operated player piano struggled to compete with the engine noise from the Model T. In a precedent-setting ruling in 1915, the Illinois Supreme Court pronounced it silly, upholding local bans until they were overturned by the Say Anything Act of 1989. And with that, I'd like to acknowledge my dedicated fact-checkers, my cat Spidey, and his chief advisor, Alfred Lord Tennisball. Thank you for your time and attention.
All right. Thank you to Maristella, who I'm going to put live on video shortly here. We're able to get her added in here. There she is. All right. And we'll put, again, our respondent, Dan Blim, live here to do exactly what he does for us here. Go ahead, Dan.
Well, thank you so much. That was just a real find, that mechanical, or that paper cylinder is marvelous. I just want to ask about two sort of other prototypes that you may not have had time to go into today. The first kind of connects to the modern practice of sampling, and that, of course, is the binder clip. And the second involves sort of shuffling papers around what you might call a ream mix. Can you talk about those two aspects of this culture?
Sure. Yeah, I'm not sure which. I'm getting a slight delay between the Skype and the other thing. But yeah. Let's see. I'm not even sure how to mute myself there.
So I'm going to chime in as the tech person. Mute the browser tab you have Twitch open in right now, and just talk to us as if you're on the Skype call, and it will reach the stream just fine. And then you won't hear yourself twice and feel weird about it. And don't worry, you're not the first person who has been advised on as much behind the scenes here.
There we go. Okay. So, yeah, this is my first rodeo there. But really, I think whatever format you have handy, the sky's the limit in terms of using your imagination, especially on the Edison side, where you have technological also-rans. And you're, like the diamond disc, and you've paid the money for it, and you're absolutely determined to get some use out of it. There's certainly opportunities there for the Edison mix disc. If you have someone who likes niche recordings, you can certainly make a mix wire recording. The dictaphone, I'm sure, got some mileage there. And so, really, I think the possibilities are endless. If you're that determined to stand under someone's window and play a mix of self-selected tunes. And of course, today you could rig up an electronic keyboard with your binders collection, and I think it's a tradition that should be brought back.
I'd like to chime in with a question, if I might, instead of just doing tech support here. And that is, I want to ask about a brief footnote at the end of your presentation instead of the meat of the presentation proper. And specifically, you mentioned pianos on trailers and the mix piano. And I would like to know if you can point me towards any research articulating the usage of those two instruments in college fraternities during the week before homecoming.
I think if it hasn't been exploited, it certainly should be, and especially if you have frat pledges to take on the labor-intensive duty of splicing together piano rolls. Absolutely, you have a way of making people pay their dues, and also a way of splicing together all of your favorites from Scott Joplin and Rachmaninoff and all of the other various and sundry people, Camille Saint-Saëns, who cut piano rolls and can be the first on your block in fraternity row to collect the whole set.
Oh yes, I distinctly remember Rachmaninoff piano rolls being extremely popular with the sorority girls when I was at Iowa State's campus as a fraternity man myself. I appreciate that comment. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Quickly from the chat. The real Clara Schumann writes, are there low and high pitch woos or slowly A440?
Well, of course, there's vigorous debate there. You have the A430 pitching of woo. You have the A415 as has come up earlier today. You also have, of course, different woo tessituras, and so there is a bass clef woo is something to something to not be omitted from the discussion.
All right, thank you very much. Dan, do you have anything else?
No, I will leave it there, I think.
All right. Sorry, I'm scrambling behind the scenes again. Could we have one more round of applause from the chat, and that will help us out here?
Woo!
Oh no, there we go, applause button. All right. Thank you so much for this presentation. It was excellent.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. Give me a minute to do some cleanup here. And I'm going to put Music Theory Augmented live here to introduce our next speaker.
Oh, snap. Hold on. I lost my window. I'm introducing?
I just arbitrarily made that decision. Yeah.
Okay, I was just going to type in the Skype chat about. So actually we have a first for AMSAD history. We have our first partner team presentation, which is super exciting. And we have Vicky Strohr. I hope I'm saying her name correctly, her last name. And we also have Justin Vickers. And appropriately, they're both employed at Evil Twin Cities universities. Vicky is in Maxiopolis, and Justin is working at Uncanonized Paul. So, British music represent Britain, and Britain look forward to their thoughts.
All right, and again, I've got that video pre-recorded, so I'm going to play the video and then put you guys live on video to the stream. But first, we will load this up and play it here.
This is Dr. Vicky Strayer. Thank you very much for coming to our presentation. The recent discovery of correspondence between Benjamin Britten and one Phillida Basingstoke and other ephemera sheds new light upon previously held beliefs about the composer's life and works. Following new COVID guidelines in the UK, workers were removing the carpets in the upstairs bedrooms in the Red House, the home of Britten and Peter Pears, for thorough cleaning, when a previously unknown hidden space was revealed beneath the floorboards under Britten's bed, which had not been moved since the composer died there in 1976. Upon further investigation, a tattered briefcase contained a Tesco bag filled with the letters and other items of interest.
I've paused it. My Skype has been. Been asked to go back in Skype.
Can you hear the audio?
I just played what I got from for a video file. So if it doesn't play, can you share a screen with me and I can do it that way? Then we can play it through Skype instead.
Yep. Oh, it is. So it is playing through Twitch. Okay.
People are hearing it, the speech on Twitch, but there was no music file that played. Is all just speech right now?
Yeah. Just
okay. Yeah, we're fine then. We're fine. Okay.
This trove of intimate letters, now safely stored at the Britten Pears archive, includes the extant correspondence from Miss Basingstoke to my dashing Benji and my darling Bee, dating back to the rehearsal period and premiere of Peter Grimes in mid-1945 and extending to her death in early 1959. Interestingly, the finding also includes a cache of letters from Britain to Dearest Phillida, bound together with other letters varyingly addressed, My Darling Phillida, My Darling P, Dearest P, and simply Philly. This particular set of correspondence calls into question all previous definitive considerations of Britain's letters using the salutation P as being addressed to the tenor, Peter Pears.
The ephemera found with what may be the complete Basingstoke-Britain correspondence includes routine paper-based materials such as sales slips, but also has a number of thrilling new revelations, including discarded portions of libretti in Britain's own hand and complete arias, staging notes for operas, and a page from a diary. Shockingly, 2 pages from correspondence with W.H. Auden, long considered lost, were found torn in half amongst the Basingstoke documents, as well as previously unknown photos.
Indeed, this exciting new finding upends our understanding of the composer's sexuality, which is perhaps more complex than previously considered, especially given that before his death, Britten asked Donald Mitchell to, quote, tell the truth about Peter and me. Additionally, these newly discovered primary source materials call scholars to a wholesale reconsideration of various characters found in both published and discarded materials for his operas written between 1945 and 1959. Further, these letters may explain the composer's strict daily work schedule and accounts for his penchant for afternoon drives throughout Suffolk at breakneck speeds and so-called walks in the countryside during those breaks. In this paper, we offer unknown details about Phillida Basingstoke's life, her relationship with Britten, and her effect on Britten's compositional choices, using images from the correspondence. We also posit new theories about Phillida and Benjy in the context of the composer's other relationship, Benjy and Peter. Although no definitive conclusions may be drawn, based on the strength of the now extant Auden pages, the 3 may well have been a long-standing throuple.
2 years Britten's junior, Phillida was born Phillida Albertina Basingstoke in 1915 in Lower Ubbington, Suffolk, to staunch monarchist Florence, née Billows, and Robert William Basingstoke. Her father once stood for MP in Suffolk Coastal, running under the slogan, Trust the Boy Billy, and was roundly defeated, receiving only 3% of the vote. Following in the family's tradition, she was educated at Culford School in Bury St. Edmunds, Suffolk, followed by finishing school in France. It had always been assumed that Philly, as she was known at home, would marry George Lascelles, brother of George who was to become the 7th Earl of Harwood, but quite suddenly in March 1945, she declined the match. One possible reason given for her reticence was that Gerald was several years her junior, but as her correspondence with her sister reveals, she had met another. We now know that this reference was to Britten. Britten and Basingstoke met during rehearsals for the premiere production of Peter Grimes at Sadler's Wells Opera House in London. Because Basingstoke was diminutive in stature and had a boyish figure, soprano and general manager Joan Cross cast her as the stunt double for The Apprentice. Basingstoke was also quite sporty. She was an avid tennis player, a characteristic that no doubt attracted Britten, and was one of the first female race car drivers, although an untimely car breakdown kept her out of the inaugural Formula One race in 1950.
Excitingly, we have also found that Britten used the verso of discarded manuscript leaves to write to Phillida, and we can now say with confidence that the discarded manuscript contains an aria for The Apprentice in Peter Grimes, which he intended for Phillida. Obviously, this conceit was abandoned, begging the question of who talked Britten out of the inclusion: Pears, librettist Montague Slater, or even Joan Cross. The Britton-Basingstoke affair, as we should now consider it, ignited immediately, and the couple engaged rather steamy billet-doux in which their mutual love and physical attraction are readily apparent. In 1947, Basingstoke moved from London back to Suffolk, letting a small cottage in Leiston, which is close to Aldeburgh, and near the newly established Mindsmere Nature Reserve, established by the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds that same year. She became known throughout Suffolk as an avid birder, who had an expertise in reproducing bird calls, especially by whistling. A cryptic note, Philly's peacock call, previously unaccounted for and found in the margins of Britton's manuscript for Noah's Flood, may now indicate that he considered a special peacock whistling solo for Phillida. We will now have the world premiere of that brief solo.
Throughout the late 1940s and 50s, Britton tried on numerous occasions to insinuate Basingstoke into productions of his operas alongside Piers, who was often less than thrilled with the idea. For example, we now feel that one of the less explored reasons that may have ultimately contributed to Eric Crozier's and Britton's ultimate falling out and adding to difficulties with the libretto of Albert Herring was Britton's suggestion to include a second shopkeeper, Albert's cousin, Albertina, who worked alongside Albert. Britton's discarded notes, once thought benign, indicate that he proposed Albertina would accompany Albert after the crowning of the May King on a mutual night of bicycle-driven debauchery. In the end, Crozier was able to persuade Britton otherwise, as Britton's correspondence to Basingstoke now reveals. Britton also considered adding a third mute child to the turn of the screw for Phillida and her growing interest in the paranormal. But according to the Basingstoke correspondence, Piers threw a fit, and Britton backed down. Newly discovered correspondence between Piers and Myfanwy Piper indicate confusion over Britton's unusual suggestion. Likewise, his inclusion of Owen Wingrave's poem, The Kind Ghost, in his 1958 composition Nocturne, must now be reconsidered in light of Basingstoke's growing obsession with Ghost. And discovered discarded bits of the libretto for Rape of Lucretia found alongside these letters indicate a role for a single supernumerary, intriguingly named Phileas, who was to serve as Calatinus's boy valet. The Glyndebourne general manager, John Christie, refused to write the contract, perhaps at the urging of Piers.
Additionally, Phillida was initially cast as the Morris dancer in the Royal Opera House's production of Gloriana, only to twist her ankle days before the premiere, when accounts relay that Piers accidentally bumped into her. And, appearing under the stage name Peter Flynn, with an obvious nod to her rival for Britton's affections, Phillida portrayed the speaking role of the cabin boy in Billy Budd. It is thought that numerous accidents and pranks during the staging period of Budd may have been attempts to sabotage her rival for Britton's affections, Piers. We also now believe that Britton's desire to write Billy Budd may have been flamed by his initial meeting of and subsequent admiration for Basingstoke's father, known throughout Suffolk as Boy Billy. Through the correspondence, we learn that the character of Florence in Albert Herring was so named in honor of Basingstoke's dear mother, who had recently died from a tragic fall at the Brighton Pier. Any perceived tension between Piers and Basingstoke may have been merely for show. Scholars have long ascribed well-established reasons for the termination of Britton's friendship with W.H. Auden, chief among them Piers's romantic place in Britton's life. But closer readings of the pair of lost correspondence between Britton and Auden appear to, in fact, offer another far different possibility. Auden may well have been aware of Britton's heretofore unknown penchant for polyamorous play parallel to his appeal for Piers. The lost Auden pages comment on the Piers-Britton-Phillida polyamory in coded warnings. Careful never to use the name Phillida, Auden, perhaps trying on a facetious poking side, instead used the code Polly.
In an early 1948 letter that Auden wrote during the compositional period of Britain's realization of John Gay's Beggar's Opera, the now restored final page holds the dire warning: "Don't underestimate the complications Polly could cause with your captain." One might assume that Auden was referring to the role of Polly Peachum, the role that Eric Crozier's wife Nancy Evans would create. But when compared to the second lost page from a letter of the same week, Auden notes, "Polly is going to be harder to manage than you think."
During an outing to London's Savile Row to pick up a birthday suit for her precious Benji on 8 November 1959, Phillida was nearly crushed by a Bösendorfer grand piano that was being hoisted into a fourth-floor walk-up at the now-demolished Belvedere Mansions, which was precariously cantilevered over the street, and onlookers shouted for her safety. She stepped back into the street, fell, and was promptly hit by a double-decker bus filled with American tourists on their first trip abroad. A small group of scholars now find it worthy of consideration that the injury to her ankle during Gloriana rehearsals may have accounted for her falling into the street, as opposed to being crushed by the piano. In any case, it was a lively day on Savile Row.
Found among the ephemera was a torn-out page from a heretofore unknown diary. The page, dated 9 November 1959, was accompanied by a receipt for what must surely have been an engagement ring. The diary entry reads, B to P at B's, with a time for an 8 p.m. reservation for dinner, which scholars now contend is shorthand for Benji to propose to Phillida at Brown's Hotel, London. A discarded unused train ticket from Aldborough to Ipswich to Liverpool Street, London, was paper-clipped to the diary page. Britten cancelled several concert engagements just after, including a tour with peers of West Germany. Although the official reason cited was tendinitis in Britten's arm, Basingstoke's sudden, tragic, and unexpected death undoubtedly was the real cause.
This new watershed revelation drains many of our previously held beliefs about the composer and his relationship with Peter Pears, and calls into question a number of facts we thought were secure. Could the various names of boys that appear throughout Britten's correspondence to Pears between 1945 and 1959 actually be aliases for Basingstoke? A new examination of the full correspondence between Britten and Pears in light of the relationship between Britten and his darling filly will, we hope, answer this question and more.
All right, I'm gonna.
That was spicy.
Do that. Let's get. Let's see, Justin and Vicky into the stream for us. There's Justin up in top left, and let's see, locals me, Dan. Oh, Britten as the name for Vicky. There we go. All right, and then I need to put Dan live as well to ask questions and respond here. All right, Dan, what do you have for our amazing presenters on Britten?
That was truly a presentation without peers, I have to say. Your heterodox approach to re-examining Britain's life and romantic affairs certainly sets the record straight. And with that last sort of pseudonym, it's nice to see polyamory getting more attention from scholars. Now, I want to hone in on perhaps Britain's most famous work, of course, Peter Grimes, and Polly's role as the apprentice there. I'm curious about sort of what an anti-queer reading of that relationship would be especially in light of the fact that originally Peter was not a fisherman, but a surfer bro who had been badly injured in a surfing accident, which would have, of course, made Phyllis's position as the sore surfer's apprentice. The sore surfer's apprentice. So what would your sort of take on that relationship be?
Dan, I feel like you've gone like full on into Polari, and it's perfect. I dare say. I don't know. Is everyone loving Polari? I know that certainly Bull and Oak knows what that is. The coded language, queer language in 1950s, 60s, 70s England.
My sense was always that Peter Grimes was an expression of Britain's heterosexuality, and certainly of that side of Britain, that any perceived homosexuality between Peter Grimes, which of course was Peter, and the boy, was really just an attempt to be overly subjective and overly post-structuralist in a reading.
That makes total sense. I know the popular gay fisherman's app Grinder is clearly a nod to that, but maybe this will put them out of business. Do we have questions from the chat?
Is there significance to the fact that he was named Peter?
Well, I think that's a rising concern on most mornings, depending on the tide. I will note that Vicky and I are both married to men named Michael, and we can hardly tell them apart. So essentially, we're in a throuple. So this was very easy research to suddenly explicate.
They've got the mics turned on.
I'm now muting my husband.
All right. Thanks so much to both of you. I have to say it's a rarity to have any co-authored paper in our world, even in our fun humor panel, and it's really a delight to have collaboration in a field where we don't do nearly enough of it. So thank you both so much. Can we get some clapping from the chat for this amazing talk on Benjamin Britten? Thank you so much. All right. I'm sorry I'm going one source at a time. I don't want to mess anything up on the broadcast. Better to go slowly than to embarrass myself in front of, in front of the people I like the most, really. Matt, it is time for the business meeting. I need a bell. Ding, 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 ding.
Nice. Let's do it.
I don't have one. That's just me and the microphone. That's all you get.
So I gotta share my screen.
Yes, you do.
That's
Okay.
microphone to you, Ryan.
Streams. I will. Give me 1 second, please. Why won't it go? Hold on 1 second. Let me wait for the network to refresh itself. If not, I'll capture it directly. Haha, technology. I'm so good at it. Oh, wait. I mean... All right, I'm going to make Matt just a little bit smaller. We'll put him over here in the corner so we can make the business presentation a little more visible for folks. And Matt, whenever you're ready, I think we should hear you here.
All right, everybody can hear me. This is good. Wow, thank you so much for the great presentation so far. And the first thing I want to do is just give a huge shout out in the chat. Press whatever button in the chat is cool to press now to give it up for Ryan Thompson at Bardic Knowledge for getting this going in a way that none of us understand, but it's working flawlessly, or as close to flawlessly as it can. Give it up. I'm looking in the chat. There is a delay. I want to see some stuff. All right, there we go. Woo.
Thanks,
awesome.
Everybody.
So we've got. This is very important, y'all. So I really hate to take us out of the humor of the moment, but it's really important for us to crunch the data. We got to get granular. It's not the most fun part of the job. And the other thing that makes it a little bit difficult is the AMS AfterDark Constitution literally mandates that I only have 26 minutes to prepare this presentation every year. Which honestly, we should take a look at that because it's like there's a lot to go through. Anyway, so we're going to get started. But first, we got to hear a word from our sponsors. I'm sorry. I know we already went through it. I mean, our first, brought to you by, first sponsor is Realm, right? Of course, really great, sponsor of the show. And, of course, let's just all remember, the whole reason we use Realm, we love it. Remember their tagline, Realm, use Google and lie to your friends to seem more professional. No one understands it. If you do, cool, that's great for you. I don't know. I remember a professor telling me to use it, and I just use WorldCat. So there we go. Realm, thank you for your imaginary support. Also, we're gonna, just another sponsor brought to you by Wiley Publishing. Shout outs to Wiley. Wiley. Hey, is it about music? Cool. We'll publish almost anything. That's awesome. And apologies to anybody who was published by Wiley, like myself. I feel like I can rip on them since they published me. What a mistake, I tell you. Just bad judgment. Anyway, so we're going to begin our meeting as we do every year with a review of the minutes from last year. So I know this is boring, so I tried to spice it up a bit. Here we go. Got that one. Minute. So I hope you found that all informative as I did. I know it's not the most fun thing to do, but it's an important part of procedure, and we do need to go through it. So really what I want to start this year is there's a lot of data. We got to crunch the data. That's what we got to do, y'all. It's just that's what I'm all about. I'm about crunching data, getting to the numbers, all right? Trying to figure out where we're at, where we're going. That's what I do at the store. That's what I do all the time. So here we go. We got some data that I just want to approve. I want you to approve. We're going to take it. We're going to figure out how we're going to go into 2021 and have a really awesome year. So, these are the industry KPI year-to-year comparisons, 2019, 2020. KPI, key performance indicators. People, these are the numbers that we're tracking every day. Right? We track them. We've got a whole team down at AMS AfterDark office, and we're keeping track. First one is, of course, jokes. Probably our biggest key performance indicator, taking a temperature on where we're at, where we're going. And we can see that, back in 2019, we had a really good year for jokes. We were up to 82 jokes. And as a profession, 82 jokes over the year, that was a year-over-year improvement, right? We want to get to 100. I think it can happen for there to be at least 100 jokes told by musicologists. But this year there were there was a little bit of a decline. And I gotta say we're still crunching this with our quants. But one thing that we really got to get into is the difference between sort of like dark jokes and like not dark jokes, because I think that these numbers would be a lot different if like with everything that happened this year, the jokes that were kind of dark, it might show a little differently. Our next KPI, of course, is levity, general levity that is like experience amongst musicologists, music theorists at the musicologists have value. 2019, 62 percentage points of levity, pretty much average for academics. I mean, they tend to lie about this stuff, but this is the, hey, how you doing? And then, I'm good, or maybe I'm a little tired, but I'm good. But we can see that I was down way. That went way in 2020. I mean, our levity percentages, they're just kind of off the charts drop off. We're talking about a year-over-year comp. It's just frankly unacceptable, folks, and I need your help. I need your help to get this levity back, right? So we all got to buckle down, know what to do. We, of course, measure screaming at the sky. Important metric for us. One that, honestly, like, we had a really good 2019, really only a 4% screen at the sky rate. That really ballooned in 2020. We saw a lot more of this behavior in 2020. A lot of screaming at the sky amongst the music people. And something that's understandable, but is something we got to record. We got to move forward from. We're all about moving forward here at AMSAD. So we're going to move forward, right? But screaming at the sky, up, recognize there's ways to get around it. This is a really interesting metric because this is one that we just started tracking, which is planned papers about podcasting, right? And, in 2019, this was a very niche environment. Really only 2 papers planned about podcasting. 2020, I mean, like 99% of musicologists were trying, they had that conversation, like, should I write a paper about podcasting? It's really in, like, people are remote. It's remarkable comp, right? Remarkable year over year. I'm pretty sure everybody out there in the Twitch chat, like, you've had that conversation. You have. Right? Like, hey, like, let's write about podcasting. But interestingly, we dove in a little deeper and we went into completed papers about podcasting. And, in 2019, we're 2 for 2, 100% success rate. And in 2020, we were 0. And I need your help here. Like, if we're going to plan a paper, friends don't let friends plan papers about podcasting and then not write papers about podcasting. We got to fix this. Let's go on to some more data. Here we go. More KPIs, more stuff we stack. We're going to track, Google searches for the term alt-ac. Something in 2019, we saw a healthy margin, about, 15% of music-related Google searches for alt-ac. And, in 2020, it just ballooned, right? I mean, I'm definitely guilty of this. I don't want to say guilty. I'm actually very pleased with this as someone who's working in alt-ac, but definitely getting a temperature, getting a pulse on what we're thinking about. Learning a new instrument. These are musicologists that, that are learning a new instrument. About 4% of musicologists, about 65, pretty much expected with the quarantine. The instruments were a little weird, as you might expect. Getting a lot of, to be honest, getting a lot of slide whistle, right? Which I'm surprised by, but also intrigued. And we're gonna dig into that further. I promise you, that 40% of next year's budget in marketing is gonna go into investigating the slide whistle. Excuses for not writing, about 40 different excuses per musicologist about why they're not writing, right, in 2019, ballooning up to 82, right? Just more excuses, and this is just expected from the COVID-19 pandemic. We got jigsaw puzzles started, about 10 in 2019. That's about industry average, ballooning to 75. But again, similar to the podcasting, jigsaw puzzles completed, very low completion stat here, folks. I need you to work on this, all right? I really, do not start a jigsaw puzzle until you're going to complete it. It's just embarrassing. Like, we are losing to anthropologists right now in the jigsaw puzzle completion metric, and it's frankly unacceptable. And I'm looking at you, right? All of you. Finish your goddamn jigsaw puzzles. We got to be able to show up in this metric. We got some more data. So one of the things we track very closely at AMS AfterDark in terms of just trying to get a temperature on the overall state of mind of musicologists is what we call the JT index. Right. This is all very scientific. I'm not going to bore you with it. But the JT index is a general preferability between Justin Timberlake and 15th century motet composer John Taverner. Generally, the data is tabulated by percentage of respondents stating their overall likelihood to put this on a party playlist. And generally, with musicologists, you really want to see the Justin Timberlake's high, right? We really don't want motets on a party playlist, people. Right? I mean, we already heard they don't slap, they don't bang, they're not good. We want to make sure that we're really kind of in the high 90s. But as you can see, as we progress through the year, the JT index slowly drifts, and by the time we get to midsummer, we've crossed the pale. And, all of a sudden, we're at where we're at now. And, the JT index is completely reversed. This is, analysts have said, a demonstration of our complete loss of a grip on reality. As a part of this being, not interacting with people who aren't musicologists and might not understand that, motets are bad and not fun, right? So listen, we're all about moving forward, right? Where are we going to go for 2021? And I'm happy to announce that AMS AfterDark's got a 3-step plan to elevating the JTI. That's that JT index, right? That's getting us back to where Justin Timberlake's what we're putting on parties, and we're not trying to bore our friends with some sick motet that's based off of Western wit. And for those British music scholars, yes, I didn't look it up on Realm. I looked it up on Google. Number one step is more jokes. We got to elevate that joke percentage. And, really the higher that the ERPS percentage, and that's eye rolls per student, that's proven to correlate with an improved JTI, right? So we got to make sure our students' eyes are rolling. We got to make sure that we're telling the jokes, that we're going to work every day, no matter how kind of down and out we're feeling. We're remembering that we got a joke quota. We got to get that JTI up. And remember, jokes get funnier the more you tell them and the more you have to explain them, right? So, if you feel yourself like, oh, I already told this joke last lecture, don't let that stop you. Like, it is funnier this time, right? Your students won't remember, and if they do remember, they'll thank you for it. The second step is, of course, more blankets. Blankets keep you warm. They're overall excellent investments. We're not really sure if this is going to help, but it really just seems like good advice. Go out and buy some more blankets, and we think that that's going to make you happier. Third, we need more TLC people, right? I mean, in these times, TLC is more important than ever, right? And we're seeing some massive shifts in TLC trends amongst musicologists, and they need to be corrected. I'm going to show you what I mean. So here we go. This is the musicologist's favorite TLC jams, a comparative study that Music Theory Augmented and Musicology Duck actually helped me conduct. It was very rigorous. We can see in 2019, the respondents kind of overwhelmingly supported No Scrubs, with a fairly even distribution between Creep, Ain't Too Proud to Beg, and with 3% responding that they only listen to Stockhausen. And honestly, that was good news. Like, we want to get people off the Stockhausen. We need more TLC, right? Waterfall is kind of about a third. It's where we're at. That's the TLC song that most musicologists have heard. That's been its stable percentage for years. In 2020, interesting kind of data. We see a very different distribution, and kind of like, we've been tracking this metric since about 1982, and this is like the first time that we've seen demonstrable differences, right? So let's just like unpack this a little bit and take the takeaways, right? I mean, the first takeaway is that we see a clear willingness to accept scrubs, right? Because the no scrubs percentage went down. So, there's more acceptance of scrubs. I'm going to leave it to the experts to say what that is, but this is just what the data shows. Takeaway 2, there's a loss of pride. There's enough loss of a pride to begin begging, right? Ain't Too Proud to Beg, 12%, down to 1% in 2020. What is this showing us? What is happening? And then there's an increased affinity for waterfalls, which I can't really speak to, but it's there. And then, of course, I mean, Stockhausen gained. And the only thing I can think of is that maybe helicopters have become more popular, people seeking a means for escape. Not sure. Put in the chat what you think. This data is very important. So that's what I got in terms of data. I hope it was informative. We're working on this night and day. Next, we got to get down to the, the not so fun. Like, we got to do the AMS After Dark Constitution. Hey, Matt, like, I don't like to do, you know what? We got to do it. So we're going to do it. All right. So the first amendment that's been proposed is the official publication style guide amendment. And the existing language is, of course, as we all know, all official AMS After Dark communications must be formatted to be as confusing to read as possible. Acceptances letters must begin with, quote, "We regret to inform you," and rejection notices must begin with, "Congratulations, you've been rejected." Comic Sans is the only acceptable font for communication, and run-on sentences must be used whenever possible, except in the rare instances where they actually serve to make things clearer or are used as a writerly tactic to hammer home an important message. Proposed changes here. And this is really just a fundraising opportunity. There's the AMS After Dark will solicit competitive bids from major style guides to raise money for the organization's founders, students, debt relief, and boat fund. Whichever style guide gives Matt the most money, and I'm really hoping Chicago comes through here, will be the required style until another style guide offers a better deal. So for those of you that work at style guides, let's make sure the bids are competitive. I don't want to see anything under $10,000 because
Matt, I'm sorry to interrupt. It should be Toronto style. That's what we agreed on in the last board meeting. I'll duck out now.
I mean, listen, I'm really in it for the money here, right? This boat is not going to buy itself. I mean, this organization isn't going to run itself. And, we'll see. I'm just, Anyway, I'm going to take a quick vote. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, approved. All right, great. Thank you, everybody. I love it. Okay. Our next AMS After Dark Constitution Amendment, of course, is the Anti-Money Laundering Clause. This is all very important. It's a little technical, but, the existing language is that no AMS After Dark funds may be cleaned with soap or disinfecting materials under any circumstances. Wiping chocolate or tear stains off $100 bills is fine. Only dry cloth is used, right? And that's very important. It's been important to us for a while. We want to make sure that we're keeping it, we're keeping in line with public safety. So due to the COVID-19 pandemic, AMS After Dark will allow money to place for public safety. So please send all future deposits to Credit Suisse Panama City account number below, and any employees or members who disclose this information to the feds, you're going to lose screen time privileges for a week, folks. That's serious. Screen time. All right. It is approved. And finally, the Rage Against the Machine clause, one that's near and dear to our hearts. All AMS After Dark officials, this is the existing language, are entitled to break one computer a year with either a golf club or a flamethrower. And I know we've been strict on this in the past, that it has to be a golf club or a flamethrower, provided that Killing in the Name of by Rage of the Machine is playing throughout the office. Employees must clear this action with their supervisor and sign up for a scheduled time slot on the board near the yellow refrigerator, not the blue refrigerator MTA. We talked about this, all right? But we are going to change this a little bit. We realize that people are frustrated. So due to the stress of remote learning, all AMS After Dark officials are entitled to break 3 computers a year with any destructive instrument of their choice. So that's, you can bring in your axes, you can bring in your chainsaws, but we still need Killing in the Name of to be playing throughout the office. And you don't need to clear this with a supervisor. Go crazy, break your computers. We'll buy you up to 3 a year out of the manual style fund. And that was approved. So that's what I have for you all. And I'm gonna stop screen sharing now. And am I stop screen sharing? Am I here? Can I take some questions?
All right. First, some applause for Matt here. All right.
Ooh.
Yeah, I was Steve Karnackian out a little bit there, but guys, it's important work, and I only have 26 minutes to do it. Any questions about business or anything like that? No.
Yeah, Drum Ultima wants to ask. I'll ask a question from the chat here. After you finish amending the AMS After Dark Constitution, would you be willing to amend the United States Constitution as well, along similar lines?
I'm just gonna go with a resounding yes. I like screw all of the red tape, you know, all the things that would make that absolutely impossible. I volunteer, right? You know, let's write it in Comic Sans, you know, on toilet paper and put it in the National Archive. I'm about it, you know.
You know, while you're at that, could you maybe add something about changing the national anthem, not to killing in the name, but to counting in the name of democracy?
Ooh, that's nice. I think that's a Coldplay song, right? You know, with who's in Coldplay? That guy Bob Dylan. Yeah, I love it. Awesome. Super cool. Yeah. All right, you know, well, folks, you know, I know it's boring, I know, but, you know, it's important. I want everybody to take away with, remember, the 3-step plan. More jokes, more blankets, and for the love of God, we got to listen to things that are not Waterfall by TLC. They have a fantastic library, and it's just like, come on, like, dig into Spotify. There's other stuff going on there. I'm going to leave you with that. You can
like
hit...
John Tavner.
Yeah, exactly.
We got to get that JTI up, man. You know, it's, I want to be clear here. You know, I want to be clear. It's never acceptable to put on a 15th century motet at a party. And if you think that it is, you can tweet at AMS AfterDark for not really so much help, but like, you know, a quick sobriety check. Because, you know, we're going to tell you that's not okay, you know.
All right.
I think we should move on to
Let's move on to our actual paper session 3 here. And I am looking through my material. Those of you on Skype, help me out. Do I have a video that I should play, or is it on your end for this one?
So this is S. Alexander Reed.
Yeah, I've got a video.
Okay, awesome. If you want to share your screen with us in Skype, I will take care of that after I duck myself off of the stream here. So if you want to play it through Skype, that's fine. Otherwise, you can like OneDrive or Dropbox it to me, and I can play it natively. All right. So do you want to share a screen with us on the Skype call? Sorry, everybody, while we're working things out behind the scenes here.
I just noticed that somebody in the chat has the name Cut My Legs Off, and I just want to say that's a great name, especially for this year.
Yeah, that's outstanding. Oh, that's right, it's the YouTube link. Okay. Awesome. Sorry about that. I will copy it. You sent it to me earlier and I just spaced it off because I've been... You know, when I started this stream, I was not a glass of bourbon in, and now I am. And
Zeno's parrot.
It causes some stupidity on my end. Okay. Let's fix this here. Here we go with the next video presentation here by S. Alexander Reed.
Paradox and the rhythmic dread of 2020. In the 5th century BC, Greek philosopher Zeno issued a set of epistemological challenges widely referred to as his paradoxes. They revealed gaps between reality and our perception of reality, gaps that have amused, charmed, boggled, and disturbed thinkers ever since. Arguably the most famous of Zeno's provocations is the dichotomy paradox, which Aristotle paraphrases thusly. Quote, that which is in locomotion must arrive at the halfway stage before it arrives at the goal, unquote. The temporal fallout of this idea is that if we're headed somewhere, let's say we're going from January 1st, 2020 AD to January 1st, 2021 AD, then we must first travel halfway, 6 months, then another halfway, 3 months, then another halfway, and so forth. And the troubling part is, of course, that even after an infinite number of halfways, we will never arrive at the year 2021. We will be forever stuck in 2020. Nodding to the scholarship of French phenomenologist Maurice Merleau-Ponty, I would encourage us all to consult our individual embodied experience, and speaking only for myself, it certainly affirms Zeno's bold implication that for us, 2020 will never end. What does this have to do with music? Well, I'm glad you asked. Mathematics traditionally expresses the dichotomy paradox as 1/2 plus 1/4 plus 1/8 plus 1/16, and so on. In song, we traverse time through rhythm, and so in a 4/4 meter, Zeno's paradox would be expressed as a half note, a quarter note, an eighth note, a 16th note, and by that point I think you all get the picture. Now, let's recognize that I'm not the first music theorist to ponder this peculiarity. In the 1990s and early 2000s, Mark DeBellis, Andras Karpati, and David Trippett all published articles that, at least based on their title, seem like they might be relevant. I didn't actually read them because I forgot my JSTOR password. For that matter, in musical set theory, we speak of Z relations, and I have a hunch that Z stands for Zeno. Fellow scholars, if you'd like to cite my hunch, here's the MLA formatting. But I want to draw our collective attention to a 1978 publication that both introduces this rhythmic paradox and offers to us some crucial wisdom that might indeed save us from the year 2020. YMCA! Yes, this work, co-authored by no fewer than 6 authors, articulates Zeno's paradox in its central rhythmic motif, and as musicologists, we are in a unique position to decode the wisdom it offers to our particular moment of dread. Now, all sorts of questions emerge when we think about Zeno's paradox in light of the YMCA. Will we ever get to the YMCA? Can it truly be fun to stay at a place that you're always approaching or leaving? But to get serious for just a moment, for the last year, Donald Trump has been using the song YMCA and duly Macho Man by the Village People at his rallies. Members of the Village People have asked him to stop using these songs, saying that he is corroding their meaning and legacy. And so, in some ways, the struggle to leave the year 2020 behind us is encapsulated by the struggle over the soul of this song. It may be overdetermined, but in this telling video from November 7th, we see citizens who voted to oust Donald Trump from the presidency, reclaiming and redetourning this song that he himself had claimed against the musician's wishes. And in this, I can't help but feel a little bit of hope for the future. I can't help but feel that we might one day get to the YMCA. Indeed, together, we can get through this year, even if it takes a village to reach 2021. Thank you.
That was awesome.
Awesome.
All right, everybody. We've got our speaker live on video. Let me get respondent Dan Blim in for his vital commentary and service to our field here. All right. Dan, how do you feel about this talk?
Well, I was worried initially that it would be too cute by half, but I think you sidestepped that challenge. I mean, there seems to be one very evident question to ask here, which is, what do you make of Trump's xenophobia?
Oh, good. I think that Trump's... So first of all, I don't know if you can hear me. Let me make sure that you all can hear me.
Yep.
We can hear you.
Can you all hear me? Yes. Okay, good. Sorry. There we go. Good. Yeah, Trump's xenophobia has been, of course, his real unmaking. If he had confronted this earlier on in his administration, he might have, figured that there was some way around this. If he had maybe thought about this, halfway through, 2 years in, maybe 1 year in, or 6 months, or 3 months after that. But he's just had literally an infinite number of chances to confront this, and it hasn't gotten any better. So I think that we've made the right choice by moving on.
That's good. And lastly, I just want to ask the sort of question about why do we have the number 1? Well, because we have to.
I wish I could put every single person on video live for just a moment. There was a collective groan across the Skype call. Sadly, I don't have that fast of fingers. Any questions from the chat before we move onward?
Oh. Has anyone been counting Dan's puns? I just need to know.
I desperately wish I have. I have a button right here I can click for my own amusement that's a counter, and I should have been using it to keep track of Dan's puns, but I've not.
We'll just have to rewatch the stream and make a counter or something.
Maybe I will have to rewatch everything and I will count the puns in real time.
Matt, I'm doing the work to get the joke index up.
Sorry to pull focus from that
very
fantastic paper.
That JTI.
All right, thank you so much for an amazing paper on the year 2020. I appreciate a little dark humor being injected into the discourse here as my own talk approaches here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is great. All right, I'm going to mute Dan's video here, and I'm going to put Matt live to introduce one of the all-time greats.
All right, everybody, to continue our paper session number 3, Wibbly Wobbly Timey Wimey, we are going to introduce AMS AfterDark board member, office manager, professor at the Conservatory of Music of Starfleet Academy, and also the one and only Music Theory Augmented. Everybody give it up for a presentation entitled Social Media Sausage and Premature Artusi, a music historical Black Mirror by Ashley Klosshaus Hayden. Everybody give it up.
Distinguished colleagues, thank you for viewing this work in progress. I'm excited to share my thoughts with you and to engage with your thoughtful questions, comments, and insights. In this digital era, we can definitively identify the worst timeline. I'm sure when you saw my title, you probably thought you were in for some Lawrence Kramer-style shenanigans. Nope, just this. In addition, we can even argue for the worst musicology timeline. This presentation will consider neither of these things. Instead, I would like to share one very bad possibility of a music history timeline, a butterfly effect that would shatter our musical ecosystem for the better part of a millennium.
As we enter the colder season, protecting yourself and your loved ones will entail further isolation and continued reliance on technology in both professional and social settings. In this time of immense technological reliance, sometimes the simplest things can be difficult, and we need a younger perspective. That's where you come in. Through your smartphone, Help a Boomer connects the technologically challenged with digitally native volunteers through a live video connection. Simply choose if you need help or want to help by the click of a button. You can help just by installing the Help a Boomer app. It will notify you when someone needs your help. And if you're in the middle of something, don't worry, someone else will step in. We strive to maintain a positive atmosphere for our volunteers and our boomers alike. Our easy-to-navigate large button interface includes a Product of Their Time button and a Kids These Days button, both of which direct you to a portal for quickly and easily reporting violations of our community standards. While a soothing video of Maggie Gyllenhaal neatly cutting out coupons for discounted fidget spinners is automatically played on the other user's screen.
The anticipation is almost as enjoyable as the act of spinning itself.
Because your privacy is as important to us as your happiness, the Help a Boomer app also includes a native web browser client visible to both users, which is not connected to any of your private documents, data, or passwords. We all need outlets that give us human connection with a sense of purpose, especially in these trying times. So join us and help a boomer today.
Before I begin, we're all familiar with Giovanni Artusi, right? That crotchety dude who took one look at Monteverdi's gently used dissonance and was like, get out. Now that we're all on the same page, I invite you all to come along with me on a journey to a musicological universe not so different from our own, in which Artusi was born earlier. And nearly everyone actually listened to him. Flourishing between the years 900 and 1000, the premature Artusi seeks to exterminate that offensive newfangled art called polyphony. Penning a text very different from the Scholica in Kyriadis that we all know and love. If you will indulge a momentary digression, according to Wikipedia, quote, "It is believed that the origins of polyphony in traditional music vastly predate the emergence of polyphony in European professional music," end quote. In the tradition of my white musicological forefathers, I have disregarded this in favor of a purely Eurocentric perspective. I would be remiss if I did not mention that Musikwissenschaft, as we know it, is the product of the worst sort of butterfly effect. The patriarchy, white supremacy, cultural hegemony, it really irritates my sinuses. Returning to the matter at hand, premature Artusi has a dramatic effect on the academic fields like music theory and musicology, but it is perhaps even more evident to keep in mind its profound impact on the lives of musical laypersons, such as, oh man, someone busted my windshield so they could steal my fancy car mono. Now there's glass everywhere and I can't listen to my favorite chants on my way to work. Premature Artusi certainly wields a great deal of destructive power in its own immediate sphere, but his most dangerous weapon is his ability to influence others, inciting riots against polyphony around the globe for centuries beyond his own lifetime. We interrupt this program for a special announcement. Are you a white cis hetero male with control issues? Have we got the analytical method for you? Shakespearean analysis. For just 2 semesters of 3 credits, you too can draw fun, curvy lines. Express your deepest colonialist desires. And compensate for your self-identified yet deeply denied inadequacy. All while applying labels to things for no good reason. Our sponsors would like us to note that we don't hate the players, but we do hate the game. Whatever the hell that means. Heinrich Schenker was racist. Heinrich Schenker was a racist. Heinrich. Wow, that advertisement was quite the interruption. Anyway, as I was about to say, the butterfly effect caused by premature Artusi is truly a terrifying prospect indeed. Thank you for watching.
All right, where is MTA here? On video. Let's see. No. Oh no, tech issues for the first time. Okay, give me 1 second, everybody. Dan is there. Don't know what happened to.
Do you need to use this app that I just heard about?
No, I don't. There, we're good. All right. Dan, your response to Ashley Grosshouse Hayden's amazing presentation.
Those were great, and I'm so glad you got some sponsors for this amazing work. I just have one sort of thing to ask you to entertain, which is to actually trace back this potential worst timeline even further back than you did, which is if we go all the way back to Noah's Ark. How do you think Counterpoint would have changed if he had refused to let the lion in or the parrot in?
You know, I think that's exactly what he did. And, you know, tracing the links, the sausage links back that far, it's really not my wheelhouse. I mean, fortunately they were on a boat. We don't really need the wheels, but, you know, I feel like I can recommend some sources for this, but I feel like it's dangerous for me to speculate in an area where I really don't have the expertise. It's sort of like if I were teaching this in a class, for instance, this is absolutely the thing where I would bring in the guest speaker just so that I wouldn't give them the incorrect historical info or, you know, accidentally be super racist for hundreds of years in my scholarship or, yeah. Thank you for the question. I'm sorry I don't have a better answer, but, you know, if you would like to talk afterwards, I can definitely send you some sources, and I've got a couple of people I can email as well.
Great. Thank you. Do we have people from the...
questions from the chat?
I will say you are all welcome to come over for game night as soon as it's safe. I'm just reading that comment.
Ooh, 2 questions from chat I want to highlight here. First, from Sarah Pozderek-Chenevi. Would we have more kinds of Counterpoint if he had more or fewer species on his ark?
I feel like it's really... obviously, the elephant or the elephino in the room would be, I mean, really elephino, but would be this mixed species controversy. You know, I'm not a moral philosopher. I'm just, you know, one of those crazy laying in snowflakes. I think it's fine if they're laying in the same hay as one another. Boy, you know, you've asked a surprisingly political question here. I think it's all in the eye of the beholder, to be honest with you. But you've definitely, I think, given me, and I suspect a lot of other people who are tuning in and who are on the Skype call as well, you know, something to ponder as we move forward with this scholarship. Yeah, so thank you for that question.
All right, and one more question from K.H. Ogland. Thank you for this important paper. Could you consider the effect of Guido Adler being transposed in time with Guido of Arezzo?
Ooh. Sorry, all I can think about right now is getting buff for AMS picture that I have of Guido Adler. In like one of those old-timey muscle man Speedo situations. And now I'm thinking about Carl Dahlhaus in like a legitimate leather Speedo, which is another one on that website. I'm sorry, what was the question? Is anyone else hot? Whew. What was the question again, Ryan?
All right, everybody, let's thank Music Theory Augmented for delivering to us another fine presentation for AMS After Dark. We love you, everybody does. Claps in the chat, please, for Ashley Grosshouse Hayden. removing things. All right. And then, Matt, you are up.
All right, everybody. It's been a night, and I mean, before we move on to our final paper, I mean, and it's super fitting. I just want to be transparent, give a huge shout out to both Ashley Grosshaus Hayden and Ryan Thompson for really being the forces that brought this together. This has been something that I'm so happy we were able to continue into this this year of digital stuff, and the expertise and the care that they've taken on a serious note has been really special, and they're who you have to thank for this. So, and that being said, we will get back to the silliness with our final paper of the evening, coming from our very own Ryan Thompson at Bardic Knowledge of the Heartland State Polytonal College, with his paper, 20th Century Experimental Music, The Worst Timeline. And worst, I'm going to just make sure it is spelled W-O-R-S-T, not W-U-R-S-T, as we have heard it. And, food for thought there. Everybody, let's kick it over to Ryan. Let's get some applause in the chat. Let's get some applause on... Ryan, hit that button for yourself.
Ow, 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 ow!
All right, I've actually prepared a performance art piece for everybody this year, but I thought I would take just a quick moment to introduce it. Before I get to that, one semi-serious note. If you are here on Twitch for the first time, or you're not on the platform very often, and you have an Amazon Prime account, please consider using that Amazon Prime free subscription you have. The money I make off of this channel funds Christmas presents for Dana Plank, Julian Grasso, and Karen Cook, who stream with me once a week on Thursday nights. If you want to just come hang out with cool video games people, you can support them by and get them cooler Christmas presents from me every year by clicking follow and subscribe, which kicks me a little bit of cash. It's embarrassingly minuscule, but every little bit helps here. In terms of what I have for you guys tonight, I was asked this year to imagine the worst timeline. And so I thought about what music does for us in the best timeline. And I was thinking about what types of music people listen to in a world like this one. Now, all night you have seen a piece of sheet music in the background for me, and I have discovered that it's nostalgic for my childhood, is what it is. This is Melody of Lute from Final Fantasy IV. And very quickly, you're going to hear this piece of music. It's warm and cuddly and friendly and everything good about nostalgic music that kind of blankets us during this difficult time in 2020. Performed by guitarist Scott Pennick, who's Minneapolis-based, old college buddy of mine, but also he's just a killer guitar player. So for a brief moment here. All right, Scott's amazing. You can search Scott Pennick and hear him play absolutely incredible guitar music. I'm going to interrupt my own presentation. Thank you so much, Doug, for throwing down some subscriptions for folks. And I was thinking about how other people have engaged music. And of course, I can play you the piece from Final Fantasy IV. What I can't do is show you the most popular music relevant to this pursuit, because of recent DMCA things on Twitch that Doug is very familiar with, who has his own channel here. And that is Taylor Swift's Folklore album is absolutely a return to this desire for nostalgia, wrapping yourself in the warmer feelings of childhood. And in less serious talk, the whole album is great. You should all go listen to it. It gives you the warm feelings that 2020 needs to provide. When I was asked to picture the worst timeline, I thought, what if music couldn't do that anymore? What if instead of music connecting us with nostalgia, music could only connect us to a dystopian future. And I thought, what better genre to articulate that future than 20th century experimental technological music? And so that's what I've prepared for you guys today, is this brief piece of 20th century experimental music, derivative of something I suspect a few people in the chat will be familiar with. And I want to quickly point out that all of the actors involved in performing this piece of music did so willingly, despite the fact that it sounds like my children are crying into the microphone at points. They were very happy to act and pretend. No people were actually upset when this was recorded. But here's what we've got. I'm going to switch scenes here. Let me bring up my piece of music. A couple visual aids as well. I am sitting in a Zoom, different from the one you are in now. I am recording the sound of my speaking voice, and I am going to play it back into the Zoom again and again until the emotions of the Zoom reinforce themselves so that any semblance of myself, with perhaps the exception of my authentic exhaustion, is destroyed. What you will hear then are the natural resonant frequencies of the Zoom, articulated through an ongoing global pandemic. I regard this activity not so much as a demonstration of a physical fact, but more as a way to reflect on how uncomfortably irregular and repetitive our lives have become.
I am sitting in a Zoom, different from the one you are in now.
I'm recording the sound of my speaking voice, and I am going to play it back into the Zoom again and again until the emotions of the Zoom reinforce themselves so that any semblance of myself, with perhaps the exception of my authentic exhaustion, is destroyed. What you will hear then are the natural resonant frequencies of the Zoom, articulated through an ongoing global pandemic. I regard this activity not so much as a demonstration of a physical fact, but more as a way to reflect on how uncomfortably irregular and repetitive our lives have become.
I am sitting in a Zoom, different from the one you are in now. I am recording the sound of my speaking voice, and I am going to play it back into the Zoom again and again.
I am sitting in a Zoom. Different from the one you are in now. Different from the one you are in the now.
Have become. So, take heart, we do not live in the worst timeline. Yet. We're going to get through 2020, and things are going to be just fine. We will not have to exist in the world where people have to listen to that more than once during this presentation. Thank you.
What a bop!
All right, Dan, your response.
I would like to know about the implications of this work on sitcoms being recorded in front of a live studio audience.
You know, I watched a presentation made in October of 2020 with my students this morning for streaming class. And they were all socially distanced and absolutely silent. There was no cheering of any kind for the studio audience. It was a StarCraft 2 tournament. But there was no cheering or no clapping. And I think that this might be the internal monologue of the studio audience watching things on the stream, like all of the people who are watching us now, stuck here in a meeting that they cannot get out of.
Well, I'm going to let my colleagues here have a crack at asking you questions, but from what I can understand, this still seems preferable to Blackboard.
All right. MTA, what question do you have for me?
Ryan. I have to ask you this question. You know I have to ask you this question. Please forgive me, we're still friends. What part of After Dark do you not... clearly it was the after part. How can we better communicate to avoid these sorts of issues, for lack of a better term, in the future? I mean, it was very good performance art, but my God, it was dark. Jesu Christe, it was dark.
So the call for papers was broadly worded, we'll say. Some people wander into the doctor's office and think that their pain is an 8. But some of us wander in and imagine more possible. And so we wander in with broken limbs protruding from our bodies, and we say that our pain is a 2.
Ryan. Broken limbs, broken bones protruding. Are you okay? I mean, I think that's a question I really have for literally everyone this year, everyone on this panel, everyone not attending. But, you know, it has to.
The truth of it is, I'm doing far better than a lot of people are. I have the flexibility of a professor job that lets me manage my children's distance learning to do goofy stuff with them. I am extremely fortunate to be in the position I'm at. And seriously, if there's anything I can do to help those people who aren't in that position right now, and I know that at least a few of those people are in the chat room with us right now, everything does kind of suck right now, but we'll get through it. Things are going to be better. I didn't feel that way until about 2 weeks ago, but now I feel that way. And we're all going to be fine. So I was actually a little nervous about this because I made this video before the election results. And now, again, I feel we're going to be fine, so I was confident that I could do this. I might have actually changed my plans if things had not gone this way.
I would have laughed even harder, honestly, like out of sheer losing my mind if we were not in the present political situation. If things had gone differently with the counting, I should say.
All right. Any other questions for me from either of you for Skype people? Yes, Matt would like to be made visual. I can do that. I have the ability. All right, Matt, there you go. Look, I am emulating a Zoom meeting now on stream. Isn't that fancy?
So, first I'll after all of this, I think we really need to do a quick JTI check. So in the chat, please, John Traveners or Justin Timberlake, who are you going to put on at a party? Let's just make sure we're set here. I want to see that. Second, I would like to suggest an alternative title to the performance piece, if that's okay. Ryan.
Yes, that's fine.
Sprechstimme into the void.
Nice, I'm all for it. I want to address quickly a question from Elizabeth Hamilton, who's my co-chair tomorrow for the AMS Ludomusicology session, which those of you who are going to AMS proper should attend. And that is that she says, you do know that Lucier is not contemporary music, right? It's like 60 years old. It's boomer music. And to that I say, my music history syllabus stops in 1972, so I don't have any idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Boomer bangers.
We're getting a lot of Johannes Tinctoris in the chat right now, which is unexpected. And Dan, as the recently named chief of AMS AfterDark Analytics, I'm going to need you to crunch these numbers, please. And by recently named, I mean like in this exact second you were named that. So
count the votes. Count the votes.
Right. And speaking of counting the votes, actually, we must move on from my talk. Thank you, everybody, for putting up with my shenanigans.
Thank you.
And
I get that on YouTube. That's gonna go.
I am actually going to put it on YouTube shortly after this presentation.
I don't want to say viral because A, like, ugh for right now, but B, also like, I mean, we guys, we could get like 400 views on this. I mean, if we get every musicologist together, we could do it, you know? Like.
We must move on to the AMSAD Awards ceremony.
Okay, so here's the thing, y'all. We've got these awards we give out, and we need your help. We want to see some nominations out there on Twitter, so please spread the word, and we'll take a look. We've got 2 awards that we give out annually that we want to get some nominations for. Kind of generally at AMS, when it's IRL, we're able to kind of get together and take a look at Twitter history and, you know, and kind of see where we're going to go. But we've got 2 awards that we give out. We've got the Weird Al Yankovic Award for Achievement in Musicological Spoofing, right? And we've got the Peter Schickley Award for Lifetime Achievement in Necessary Musicological Silliness. Both of these awards do come with an honorarium of $0. In fact, if you want something sent to you, we do request that you pay for postage. But we would love to hear, kind of for the first time ever, because this is generally kind of something that we just kind of discuss and present. We'd love to hear some solicitations for people that might be deserving. So DM our Twitter account if you've got anybody that's deserving and or not deserving and that you just want to shout out, and we'll announce. Well, we also we want to kind of just recognize and not so much an award, but just like an intense recognition of Bob Judd, who we lost and was very near and dear to this organization for being the good sport that he was. Just to share like a couple like quick stories about Bob, who has been belovedly named the AMSAD Dad. Bob was so supportive of our stupid little experiment that we started, even all the way back in Vancouver, to the point where he didn't yell at us for putting up dumb posters. That's where it started. And then he eventually became involved. He delivered the AMS After Dark business meeting and the AMS business meeting in Rochester. It was super fun because when he came into the bar, he had no idea that many people were there. I think he was expecting like just me and maybe Ashley, and there was like a bunch of people there. And like immediately went and ordered a Coors. which was really funny. Just other things too. I mean, like, here's a really good one. So some of you might have noticed that I think I even have them right here. Oh no, I don't. One year, I wanted to make AMS AfterDark Council ribbons, and so I just like emailed Bob and was like, hey, what color are the AMS Council ribbons? And he was like, why do you want to know, Matt? And I was like, because I want to make fun of them. And he was like, oh, cool. Yeah, they're pink with gold embossing, and here's the website we get them from. So I ordered 500 of them. That's why they look identical. And every time I'm at AMS, people are like, are you on council? And I'm like, I'm on a council, just not like the right one. So, just a special... just like a special shout out, and Ashley's showing her AMS After Dark Council Awards. By the way, it's super easy to join the AMS After Dark Council. Like, this isn't a like or subscribe. This is a genuine, like, anybody who wants to continue with us, and hopefully we're IRL in the future. But if we have to do this again virtually, I think it went great. Your application can be sent via a DM of just like, hey. And we'll get you on the team, and you can be on the council, and we'll we love people. They want to get involved. So yes, the awards that we would love to hear from are we would love to hear about the Peter Schickley Award for necessary musicological spoof. The Weird Al Yankovic Award for excellence in musicology spoofing. And the Peter Schickley Award for Lifetime Achievement and necessarily musicological silliness. So anybody who has some nominations, please put them up in the AMS After Dark Twitter. We will painstakingly review them and award. And there's no limit to the amount of awards that go out. So we'll just give them, and you can put them on your resume in service to the field or your CV, and which I hope all of you do, because this is service to the field. It's as much as anything else I've done. So
yeah, seriously, I put this on my CV. Like,
yeah, I do. Yeah, I put it up.
Matt,
yeah.
Matt, if I'm going to be crunching numbers, you mentioned that Bob Judd ordered a Coors in Rochester. Did you have him fill out a Coors evaluation?
Daniel. I don't even know your middle name, but I want to do full name angry mom voice at you.
Just to recap what we've the awesomeness we've heard tonight, and I hope that this is going to be available for those of us who couldn't make it. But we heard about the theremin from Dominique. We heard, just an absolute, and the theremin just being a unbelievable bathtub instrument. Absolutely love it. We heard honestly, a just stunning. It could have been in the SMT pop music interest group. Like, somebody call Roger Grant, Laurie Burns. Let's get them in here. Let's get them to dissect what Cabello was talking to us about creating perfect playlists. Of course, just making sure that we investigate the history of the mistape from Maristella, absolute, beautiful finds, completely real. Don't ask anybody. The correspondence with Peter Pears is mind blowing to me as someone who has never studied Benjamin Britten's music and has no idea what they're talking about. Again, I study guitars and it's useless. But no, I'm kidding. Like, by the way, Haunting House on Bly on Netflix, I had this huge win with my wife when we were watching that, and I was like, you know what? I bet that old nanny's name is Miss Jessel. And she's like, how did you know that? I'm like, I'm magic. I have absolutely, going on to Zeno's Paradox with Dr. Reed, giving us what we need to get through the next year. Of course, the worst presentation I've ever heard in my entire life from Music Theory Augmented. And then a truly harrowing experience with Ryan Thompson that leaves us all off on a low note. And I'm just looking at the JCI numbers, and yep, it seems like people are putting on motets at home. So I hope when we circle back next year, we get those Justin Timberlake numbers up, team. I know we can do it. Remember, like, he brought sexy back once, he can bring it back again. He can do it, right? You can do it, And I think we're gonna leave it there.
Ryan, one quick programming note for folks. If anybody wanted to be here and could not be, I'm going to be uploading this entire stream to YouTube immediately following when I quit broadcasting to Twitch. I'll bounce it over to YouTube. It'll take me about an hour because I have crappy internet here. And it'll be there. And then I'm uploading my I Am Sitting in a Zoom piece of music individually as well on my YouTube channel, mostly for my own amusement. And if anybody would like to tune in, that'll be at youtube.com/rtbardic, which I am typing in the chat now. And otherwise, I have to say that walking into a bar in Vancouver thinking to myself, yeah, I could spout some bullshit for a couple minutes, was one of the best decisions of my entire life, actually, to go to AMS AfterDark in Vancouver, to meet Matt, Ashley, Dan, and a few other folks there. Just all of you are tremendous people here and otherwise. And we owe you guys a lot for bringing some humor and some sorely needed not seriousness to our field. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
You guys are my favorite people. You're going to make me cry.
Presenters.
I missed every one of you, including the people I haven't met yet.
All right, thank you so much for coming, folks. We're going to sign off here. This has been fantastic. This went far better than I thought it was going to. Everybody's presentations were absolutely fantastic this year. Just a tremendous experience. Thanks, everybody, so much. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all in person as soon as possible. Bye, folks.